Hello, you're watching Oathbound Secrets. I was just watching a video about cults, online cults, QAnon, that kind of stuff, and the dangers of leaderless cults. Because if your cult doesn't have a leader, then how do you know that you're in a cult? Is it even really a cult? What is a cult? Personally, like when people use the word cult, I don't really think of it as like necessarily a bad word. Like it's just a descriptive word because like if you look in like anthropology, history, archaeology, whatever, they talk about cults of different gods and goddesses, the cult of Aphrodite, the cult of whatever, Artemis, whatever. And they talk about all these different cults, and what they mean when they say cult is that they mean the cultivation of a community who focus on their activities of worship, and it means like a group that's bringing together and creating their own kind of traditions, customs, rituals. It's like their own little thing, basically like a coven of witches, a cult of pagans, that kind of thing. And a cult isn't necessarily about worshipping a person as the leader. Okay, that's just a personality cult. That's a specific type of cult, personality cult. But other cults, usually they're around a deity. Okay, usually it's all about we will worship this one deity, Hecate, Diana, whatever, and this is how we cultivate that kind of religious spiritual community. And the difference between a cult and religion as a whole is like religion, I think, is like more broad, like a bigger thing that people can be grouped into. Does that make sense?
And I think it's more about the structure of organized religion, and when something is endorsed as like an official group versus something being kind of more unofficial, more organic, like organically formed, like without any authority. I think that is what is the real difference. Like a cult is like a group that comes together of its own accord without an authority figure from like the mainstream religion or the state sanctioned religion or like some official religious structure kind of condoning or what's the word, promoting this particular like sect or church or whatever, like denomination of a religion. So I think that's how it is in my mind. Like a cult is like an unofficial group, whereas an official denomination or sect or church is something that is within the structure of organized religion. And like when I say organized religion, I mean like a hierarchical religion. So like a religion that has like a structure of who's in charge and who makes the rules and that kind of thing. Like, so like a cult is something that doesn't really have that structure, that doesn't have somebody deciding, whether you're doing things the correct way or not, because the cult decides for itself, or the cult leader decides for itself, if it's structured in that way. And I don't think it necessarily has to be, but a lot of the time there is some kind of leadership within a cult. It's kind of necessary, isn't it, that somebody or some people are seen as the leaders within the movement who maybe not officially, but like other people in the movement, in the cult, would see certain people as the leaders or the people who have inspired the movement to form. And I think that's also what folklore and folk religion is about. When people use the word folk, like they mean of the people, of the general population, but it's referring to like beliefs and customs that people have, which they practice or believe in without being taught to follow those traditions by an authority figure of the established organized religion. Do you know what I mean? Like, so folk practices are just things that people do of their own accord and might not be endorsed by like the religious authorities, and might be seen as like somewhat dangerous or deviant by those religious authorities, or maybe seen as like quite harmless and fair enough and tolerated, but not something that would be part of their official doctrine. So like the organized religion could be the Catholic Church, it could be Orthodox Judaism, it could be Sunni Islam, it could be a Protestant religion like Church of England, it could be a monastic order of a Buddhist tradition of some kind, and it's, you know, it's called an organized religion because it has like the structure of like membership, like official membership, that you join the religion through being like baptized or going through some kind of ritual, and there's like a very bureaucratic way of deciding how things are done, like financially, the budgets and maintaining the buildings, and like the relationship with the state and politics and taxes and all that kind of thing, and having like an official like creed or set of rituals that like are a liturgy of like mass and prayers and sermons and rituals on like specific days, like their special holy days and festivals and things that they organize, and their official texts like the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, whatever. So like outside of organized religion is where you get folk religion or folk beliefs, folk practices, and that's like when the practices and beliefs and traditions, they don't have an official like clergy, they don't have that structure. Instead, it's just like traditional knowledge being passed on through like from elders, from your grandparents, from your uncles and your aunts, and like community leaders, like people within the community who are seen as like the elders of like the village, like the village wise woman, that kind of thing. Like these traditions are passed on from older people in your community, and you carry it on through the generations, and it's just like general beliefs and general knowledge of that local community. That's what like folk beliefs are all about. So like those beliefs would be like purely based on like oral teachings or sayings or songs, things like that. So there wouldn't be like a special book that is handed down or anything like that. It would just be like general stories, myths, legends that people remember, and they might kind of like rewrite with their own creative style and whatever, but it's like always like the general theme of the story is passed on. It might be told in like slightly different ways, but like the names of the characters and stuff are remembered and passed on. That's basically what like folk tales and fairy tales and legends are all about, because there's no official version of the story. There's there's always going to be like multiple different versions of the story, and then folklorists will like attempt to record those stories and document, you know, the variations, and compare like different communities' versions of the same stories, and maybe like try and understand like how different stories have been passed on and shared between communities, and how they've influenced each other, and like what their differences or similarities might be. But when it comes to folklore, there's no like right or wrong, because it's just whatever the local people decide or have like communally agreed upon is their local folklore. So it's really up to them, it's not up to anybody else. And like if a different group of people has a different way of doing things, that doesn't mean that they're wrong, or that like they're straying from tradition or something. They've just got their own traditions. So like everyone has their own way of doing things. That's what folk culture, folklore is all about. And it's also allowed to like develop and change over time. So like there isn't this sense of like we have to preserve exactly how it was 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, however many years ago. Instead, it's like it's allowed to adapt to the current times. It's allowed to change and develop as to what the local community wants and what they find most helpful or most inspiring or most like fulfilling, like spiritually, culturally fulfilling for them to do. And if it no longer fulfills that purpose, then it becomes outdated and forgotten, and it just, you know, then it's not part of the current folklore anymore. So I think that's where you can like define the difference between, okay, what does the official religion teach, and how do they like say that you're supposed to do things, and then what does folklore teach, like what does the folk culture like practice and believe in and stuff. And then apart from that is like the cult. So the cult is like its own small niche, and like a cult would be like a smaller kind of community outside of like the general population. Like folk just refers to like the general population, the village as a whole, or the county as a whole. Like the local community are the folk, but within that community there'll be little pockets of cults. So the cult of this, the cult of that, you know, different gods and goddesses or different saints. And you could be like part of like several different cults to different saints, cult to different goddesses, cults to different whatever. And it's not like restricted, because there's no like formal membership. It's just whatever you practice, whatever you take part in.
This video I was watching was really talking about the kind of the dangers of being in a cult which has like a high control over people. Okay, so like high control cults, that's another type of cult. Okay, there's all these different types of cults, and I think like you can join a cult or you can create a cult because it's just like your expression of spirituality and religion, or you can be sucked into a high control cult where you are being controlled basically, and you feel like you have to do what they say, what the members of the cult say. That's the danger.
I think about the Glastonbury Goddess Temple, which was established like in the early 2000s. I can't remember which year it was, but that's like 20 years ago, you know? So for over 20 years, they've built this tradition, this custom, this like kind of cult, and like members of that cult are, there is some kind of like organized structure to it. So I guess it has like developed into, does that count as an organized religion? If you have like a specific temple and a priesthood, I guess that's when you transition from a cult into a like of organized religion. I'm not sure where the line is. And also it's important to define like cult from occult, because occult, is a word that we use quite a lot, occultism, and it refers to like secrecy. So like a secret cult, basically. A cult is like hidden away from the mainstream, and it's not publicly known, whereas a cult would be public, would be how publicly known is it? I don't know. It's like a private community, but it's not secret. It's not like a top secret underground community. That's when it becomes a cult. And if you're not hearing me pronounce that, I mean like with an O, the letter O, OCCULT, occult.
Here in Dorset, there are lots of little different pockets of activity for witches and pagans, and different groups that might seem cultish, and different people that may be seen as leaders or witchfluencers or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, I find myself always searching, usually on Facebook these days. I find is the best way to find out what's going on near you. As much as I hate to say it, yeah, that tends to be the way that you find out about these things. And if you're lucky enough to have like some kind of physical location for these things, like that is specifically dedicated to this kind of spiritual religious movement, like a witchy shop of some kind, then you can usually find more information about what's going on, because they'll be hosting events and stuff. There is a nice little shop in Boscombe in Bournemouth that does this kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. There's not a lot of that stuff in Dorset, though. There's really not that much. So it's quite difficult to organise and get people together. People tend to meet up like in a pub or in a field somewhere and have a little get together, chat about what they want, if they want to do something together, if they want to do some kind of ritual or whatever. Which is good, but then it's still like very difficult to organize and get people to agree on a time and a place that they're actually going to show up and be there. Whereas online, it's like so much easier to just click, here you go, and you can access this resource whenever you damn well please. The video's up there and you can watch it in your own time whenever you like. And that's so much easier, isn't it? It's so much easier to have like an online community, but there's a huge value in actually meeting somebody face to face, because you make a much stronger connection and you feel like, oh wow, I actually know this person.
I think when it comes to witchcraft and folk magic, there have definitely always been folk magic practitioners, cunning folk, professional magical practitioners who sold their services, who may be seen as scammers, con artists, people who just, convince innocent villagers that they've been cursed, and then they need to pay lots of money to have this curse lifted from them, and to target somebody who's seen as a witch. You've been cursed by a witch is doing this to your family, a witch is doing that, and a witch is doing this and that and the other, and then you blame some poor old lady in the village. Oh, it's her, she's the witch. A lot of accusations, false accusations against people. And then that's where all of the folklore about witches developed. All of these ideas about witches gathering in covens, witches worshipping the devil, witches having orgies, witches sacrificing babies, witches doing this, that and the other, whatever stories that people were telling about witches developed like this folkloric tradition about witches. And then it was that folklore which inspired people to develop their like new religious movement, their own cults, their own covens of witches.
So yeah, I'll talk about this little group that I've come across in Dorset that has been doing like seasonal celebrations for stuff. And online on Facebook, they have like quite a big Facebook group, but the people that will actually show up in person are few and far between compared to the numbers of people in the Facebook group. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's very easy to join a Facebook group or to subscribe to a YouTube channel or follow somebody on Instagram. Yeah, easy. But when it comes to real life, actually showing up and getting involved in stuff, you really find like there's just a small number of people. Like convincing people to actually leave their house, go out and attend something. Why is it so difficult? We're all bloody exhausted, aren't we? We're all just like, oh God, tonight, really? Oh, I'm supposed to be out right now. I'm supposed to be down the pub, all right now. And I'm like, do I really have to go outside? The weather's not very nice. Do I really have to go outside? I will go outside. I will be leaving right after I record this. So yeah, the real value though of like obviously go out, meet people, hang out is it's a good experience. It's good for you. You should go outside actually and meet people and do stuff, experience life, live your life. And if you can manage to get together with your local pagans and witches and whatnot, then it's just nice to like meet different people. You don't know what to expect. That the most difficult thing for me is I'm just like, what kind of person is going to show up to this? What kind of absolute fucking lunatic is going to show up to this? I'm me. I'm the lunatic. Um, and you know what is going to come out their mouths? What kind of ideas are they going to have? Are they going to be shit ideas that I don't want to entertain, or are they going to be really cool ideas that I think, yeah, let's do that? You don't know. You don't know until you give it a try. So, yeah, I think it's a really nice thing to do. And sometimes it's just nice to have local people that you can hang out with and share your special interest in a very neurodivergent way. And yeah, give it a go. I was thinking about, you know, what is it that we actually want to achieve by doing this, by getting together and forming little pockets of community? What is it that we're actually doing? We're supporting each other, I guess. We're sharing our ideas. We're doing stuff together. We're encouraging each other. We're actually giving each other more motivation to leave the house and, and experiment with group rituals and stuff like that. They can be really powerful. They can be really amazing experiences. So give it a go and just create this sense of, you know, connection with people that have similar ideas to you. It's really good for you. And then you can develop more ideas of things that you want to do together, things that you wouldn't be able to pull off by yourself. You know, there's a lot of big kind of interesting, fun stuff that you could do together. So do it. Go outside. See you later. Bye.